Good morning, everyone. We are live streaming, so can you bear that in mind, please? Right. Good morning. Welcome to Strong Communities call-in, 24th of November. First of all, members are aware that we do have an extra item on the agenda after we finish the call-in adjourned from Thursday's meeting. We have Nicola Perry with us, clerking us today. I've got senior officers before us at the front there. I think everybody knows them, so there's no introductors to be had. We have three other recipients who made the call-in with us. The fourth one may be joining us. We're not too sure. So can we just start with the reasons? Sorry, I'll go for apologies for absence. Do we have any of them? Sarah Jones? Sarah Jones, that's it. Bar Sarah, we got a full complement. Okay, declarations of interest, as and when members. Okay. Agenda item number 3, to consider a call in relation to the Cabinet report dated the 5th of November 2014, building the establishment and capacity for enterprise. The following papers are attached for members' consideration. There is a copy of the call-in, a copy of the decision log report, and a copy of the call-in mechanism. Okay, I'll bring Hazel in now just to go through due process.
Most of you have attended a call-in before, but for the purposes of live streaming and also those that are new to call-in, we'll follow the Council's call-in procedure this morning, which is outlined in the Constitution. The purpose of this special meeting is to consider the appropriateness of a decision that has already been taken by the Council's executive, a decision that has been called in by members of this select committee. This committee is not able to make a decision upon the proposal, but having followed the Council's call-in procedure can do one of 3 things. Firstly, accept the Cabinet's decision. Secondly, refer the matter back to Cabinet for reconsideration with reasons. Or thirdly, refer the matter to Council for consideration. So the call-in procedure allows for members who requested the decision to be called in to speak first, outlining reasons for the call-in. The Cabinet member will then be invited to respond, following which officers may respond. The Chair will ask the Select Committee members to comment if they wish to do so. There's also an opportunity for any other members or public to ask questions prior to considering the way forward, but only members of this committee can vote on the action proposed.
Thank you, Hazel. Right, we will commence the call-in. Can I bring the 3 members to the floor now and reasons behind the call-in briefly? And then that is Councillor Farley, Petore, Harris and Eason. Good morning.
Morning, Chair.
Would you make a start, please?
I'll make a start, Chair, and I've taken the unusual procedure of I'm actually going to read what I'm about to say. It's not what I normally do, but I think it's important to make sure that I get all the points over, and I hope everyone can hear me. You only have to be at last Tuesday's Strong Communities Select Committee, which scrutinised the provisions of community hubs and a centralised telephony service, to realise that the senior officers present were being scrutinised on courses of actions that had not been finalised, or indeed, had they been so, might produce unforeseen outcomes. An example is, do we build a library in Abergavenny for £3.4 million? And if we do, what will that imply for the one-stop shop provision? And if so, what will be the knock-on effects? So we have this massive uncertainty, and it's not the only one. In spite of this uncertainty, the Cabinet endorsed a plan that says we can move Abergavenny One-Stop Shop and the library together in a building somewhere else in the town, a decision that is subject to much speculation actually in the town. At the same time, throughout the county, we will be cutting the staff of our one-stop shops because we will be commissioning a new tailor-made customer CRM system, customer resource management system, I believe it is. I would like to ask if this committee's councillors are aware of this fact. Do you know that we're commissioning a new CRM system as yet untried? No. Okay. I just wanted to.
Could you just stick to the call in, Roger, and
Okay.
perhaps we'll bring that back into line.
Okay,
in
but
the conversation.
I've done it already, Chair.
Yeah,
So
okay, no problem.
the 1st of November report to the 18th of November report to your committee tells you that it is a system that will not initially replace our various pieces of service manager software at the moment, Mayrise, Heat, and these don't talk to each other in any case, but will supply a link between the two. By the same token, the underlying assumptions in my mind is that this undeveloped piece of CRM will be sufficiently sophisticated that it will allow us to replace a good number of our highly trained and knowledgeable one-stop shop staff. I am specifically referring to Abergavenny here. The most uncertainties that induce this call-in on my part are within the town, as I will make plain later. The bottom line is that we will lose 13 full-time equivalent posts from the county's one-stop shops and library services, and at a saving of £300,000. At the same time, we will be seeing a net increase in 2 full-time equivalent senior managerial posts. 3 more junior posts deleted and 5 more senior posts created at an increase of almost £170,000 in salary. So this in part, this is part of the background of my uncertainty about the way we are going to provide the reduction in services that we all know are inevitable in the worsening economic climate that we live in. And I am sure many, if not all of you, am in receipt of 2 pertinent documents. The first one is from the Brinicum Community Forum and Abergavenny District Civic Society, a letter directed to our leader, Councillor Fox. And part of the submission, it states, "We are concerned that the initial proposals to create community hubs in Monmouthshire appear to offer an identical structure for Abergavenny and Chepstow, i.e. 6 full-time equivalent posts, with a slightly smaller capacity for Caldicot and Monmouth, 5 full-time equivalent posts. For Abergavenny, this represents almost a 50% reduction from 12.5 full-time equivalent posts across the library and one-stop shop services. A related concern is our disappointment that the promised consultation on the future of the library has not taken place. We understand that the community hub will bring together library and one-stop shop functions in an unspecified building, probably in Frogmore Street. This decision seems to be driven more by the need to make staff cost savings than a clear strategy for the acquisition and disposal of assets. The present location of the one-stop shop, ideal also for a tourist information centre, should not be discarded lightly. We would like to see a full financial analysis of these proposals. So keep that in mind. The second document has been handed to Councillor Jordan, and it's a document written by the staff of the one-stop shop in Abergavenny and Caldicot. It's a 5-page, closely written document.
May I stop you, Councillor Harris? Is that a public document?
Yes.
It is a public document.
Yes, it was definitely sent to every single member of Abergavenny Town Council. That I do know. And you will be able to obtain a copy if you haven't already got it. And this document is a detailed and considered response to the Cabinet decision that prompted this call-in, and it is compiled, as I said, by Abergavenny and Caldicot One Stop Shop. The document discusses 3 options that staff put forward, plus they present a further 3 pages of considered thoughts and responses that deserve very serious consideration. So my submissions, really, the outcome of this call-in are: 1, The decision from your committee should, I hope, be a referral back to full council rather than Cabinet on the Cabinet report dated the 5th of November. We will all be able to deliberate the building and establishment and capacity for enterprise report, if so. At the same time, full council should have the ability to look at this committee's response to the report you scrutinised on the 18th of November regarding the provision of community hubs and a centralised telephony service. The two reports are intertwined. Secondly, the full council should consider, as an outcome from the above, creating a small cross-party task and finish group, preferably not politically balanced, because we should be grown up enough to recognise the 22-21 balance that exists in the authority. Such a task and finish group will be able to examine all the evidence as it sees fit and present a reasoned report to Cabinet and or full council at the appropriate time. This may mean that this conclusion may not be made in time for inclusion in the 2015-16 budget, but it should not be impossible for a prudent council such as this is thought to be to cope in one way or another with the short-term financial consequences in the expectation that we achieve an unhurried, superbly scrutinised and balanced outcome for such an important part of the council fabric. I hope the committee will be able to endorse my proposals. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harris. Have the other two call-in recipients like to say anything on that? Peter?
Thank you, Chair. Can I outline my particular concern while at the same time supporting, of course, the general concerns that Councillor Harris has just raised? My particular interest is in the proposals for the Chepstow Hub underneath the main document that we've received. I should say that I'm not in principle opposed to the idea of looking for ways of integrating services such as a library function, a one-stop shop function, and although it's not actually included in detail here, maybe even a tourist information function. But I am concerned in the particular case of Chepstow, and perhaps I should declare an interest here as the ward member in which the service is located. I am particularly concerned about the impact on the users, on the customers. And if I give you a concrete example, Chair, you will see where my concerns are. As I understand it, the idea is to move the one-stop shop function into a more integrated alignment with the library. And that may include eventually some reworking of the building. But if you do as I did only last week, go into the library and you have a vibrant place where people are learning, exploring information, etc., 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 amongst which will also have been, as there was last week, a group of young children singing "If You're Happy and You Know It, Clap Your Hands." Absolutely marvellous. Unless you're a one-stop shop customer going in to deal with the consequences of a bereavement. So I think one of the things that I would want greater reassurance about is the real implications for service users of the co-location. Beyond that, I'm not convinced that it's necessarily been sufficiently explored about the interchangeability which is claimed in this report between library skills and one-stop shop skills. I actually think they are different functions, they require different skills, and although there is some overlap, they're not actually identical. I'd like to hear much more about the evidence base that's been used to identify the library skills, the one-stop shop skills, and the production as a consequence of a unified job description. That's my initial concern, Chair, if I could say that at this stage.
Thank you, Councillor Farley. Councillor Easton?
Yeah, just briefly. We're not, as we discussed in Select Committee last week, we're not really clear where the final places of rest are going to be for these hub functions, Chepstow being the main area in which you'll be looking to run a hub. But we don't know what plans are in place really where Monmouth is going to be situated. Abergavenny, Roger has quite clearly demonstrated the situation in Abergavenny. Usk is quite clear where it stands, but Caldecott, it could be here, it could be there. So the staff don't know where they're going to be expected to carry out the functions. There is no disagreement in trying to bring services together so that the best service can be got for the public, but there must be limits as to what the abilities of librarians come one-stop shop staff are in level of integration. My wider concern is that we seem to be putting a structure of management in place without knowing where that structure of management is going to operate from and the staff that it's going to have. In March, a restructure was made to delete certain posts across the authority, but it would appear in the latest report that those jobs are going to be reinstated. As it's been thought out properly, I think that we should go back to the base, as Roger has illustrated, to have more consultation as to see exactly where we're going so we can have the right service and the best service for the residents of Monmouthshire. That's all I need to say at the moment, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Leeson. Right, can I bring senior officers in? I've got one down as Mrs. Byrne. I know you've brought other officers with you, but I'll bring you in first of all, Kelly, because then I will then bring in members to ask questions, and then from them questions then I'll allow the rest of your senior team here then to try and answer them questions then.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Thanks. And like Councillor Harris, I've taken the liberty of writing some things down as well, because I think it's really important, members, that we deal with fact this morning and we stick to the facts. And I'd just like to go over with you what the facts actually are, so we're all absolutely clear. And I think the first observation I'd make is that we seem to be talking a lot about libraries and one-stop shops, and the report that you have in front of you is about much more than just libraries and one-stop shops. And my real concern is, as Enterprise has got to deliver about £1.7 million worth of savings and income, you know, the largest ask of any department in this council next year, if we don't have the capacity and the resources in the right places, as this report suggests, we're not going to make those savings and income targets in the other areas. And we need to get real, because we don't have the time to go back to the drawing board, and we don't have the time. We've got a few months, and we've got to be ready in that period to deliver those savings and those income targets from the 1st of April. Otherwise, this council will fail in terms of its budget responsibilities and its responsibilities to people as well. And don't forget, we've had a staff conference in the last couple of weeks. People out there are really, really concerned. They want certainty, and that is my absolute priority at the moment, to give them that certainty. So just to give you some context then, we have got to make about 1.7 million next year. We've only got a £10 million budget. It means we lose more than 20% of our budget next year as Enterprise, and that's the largest ask of any department in this council. I've been with Regeneration and Culture for 4 years prior to Enterprise, and we were consistently making the largest contribution every single year. We always make a surplus, we always bring our budgets in on the nail, and I think we do a really, really good job. And what I would say is that what you have in front of you today is some of the most difficult things. We've taken the lowest hanging fruit. There is no low hanging fruit left. We're into really, really tough territory now, and there are no neutral decisions. So if we weren't making some of the savings and the efficiencies in the areas that we're talking about, they'd have to come from somewhere else equally as hard and as emotive. Believe me, there is nowhere else left for us to go. So we do have to make some really, really tough decisions. I think if you look at leisure, for example, you know, Ian over the years has taken hundreds of thousands of pounds out of leisure centres. And you will have seen at the recent Monmouthshire Engages events that it only costs us about £400,000 net to run a leisure centre. Next year, Ian's got to find another £500,000. And instead of coming to you and saying, £500,000, that's really hard, we can't do it, let's close a centre, let's close two centres, we're not. You know, we're working all of the hours that we can to develop new ways of working and to try and deliver services differently. Believe me, it would be so easy to come to you and say, okay, let's close 2 leisure centres. But we're not. You know, these guys are working 60, 70-hour weeks. having meetings most weeknights and the weekends to develop a different kind of service delivery. So, you know, we're not ducking the difficult decisions here. We're coming to you with things that we think we can make happen. But our report is about creating the capacity and putting the people in the right places so we can make it happen. I think the same with Deb and libraries and one-stop shops. We've got to keep a central telephony service, which means, you know, that's a must. Yes, we are having a customer relationship management system, but that's been in the pipeline for as many years as I've been here, and it still hasn't been delivered as yet. And I don't think that will make an impact, to be honest. That's just an integrated way of running some of our digital systems for interfacing with our customers. So I don't think that will make a huge impact. And again, with libraries and one-stop shops, there may be some job losses, and none of us like that. But I can say the alternative, which is to come to you and say, okay, close that library, and those 2 one-stop shops. There will be a lot more job losses. We're doing this in the way that we can cause minimum impact. And we've spoken to staff, and we've looked them all in the whites of the eyes, and we've said, look, this is the best we can do. And staff have actually been pretty accommodating. They're coming to us now with some information, they've done some consultation, they've got some ideas, and we're starting to take those on board and to work proactively with them. Last Wednesday night, after we left the call-in, Tuesday night actually, we went and met with Abergavenny Town team. Fantastic reaction from the town team. Yes, we totally understand where you're coming from. Let us work with you. We can develop the right solution for Abergavenny. People out there are really positive. They empathise. And, you know, I think we all look at them and we say, none of our jobs are safe. You know, none of our jobs are safe. None of us are in our comfort zone. And I'd be the first one to say that. And if this authority gets into a place where it doesn't need me, I'd be the first one to hold my hand up and say it. So, you know, this isn't about us saying, like, let's trade off the front line, because we're not about that. We're trying to do something different here to work with people and protect them. In terms of the reasons for calling, you've stated that there's more of an emphasis on management than the front line. That's absolutely not true. And Pete, Ian and Deb will explain that to you. There's actually a net loss of managers. We're losing 2 leisure centre managers. We've lost a library manager. I mean, there's lots of posts in the structure that we can detail and show you that we are losing more senior managers overall. That is the fact. And these guys will explain that to you in some detail. You will have seen in the month 6 budget monitoring report, or you will see it shortly, there are some comparisons about benchmarking of our services compared to our neighbours. We run a pretty tight outfit already when it comes to running libraries, one-stop shops, museums, when it comes to running leisure centres. We are the cheapest. You know, we keep our costs to an absolute minimum, and I think that's something else that we should take into account this morning. I think the other thing is, some of the comments have been made about senior managers versus frontline. And I'd say, you know, certainly in your areas, Pete, where you've got 2 staff running the whole of economic development, they're called managers because that title resonates with the private sector, but they're also the front line. You know, there is no distinction between managers and frontline. We all roll our sleeves up. Every single strategic manager is also very operational. You know, for me, there is no distinction. And I think, as I said last week, you know, we're all doing frontline stuff because that's the way we work in Monmouthshire. So just to sum up, really, I mean, you've seen everything that we've brought through Cabinet in the last couple of months. We've got iCounty, which is our new digital strategy. We've got responsibility for CMC Squared, for SRS, a brand new people and organisational development strategy, because we believe people are our best resource and we're doing our absolute best for them in this difficult time. We're not reducing terms and conditions. We're not going to do that. We're going to stand by our people. We've got a brand new strategic asset management strategy. We've got our new business growth and enterprise strategy, which council debated. So we've got all of these things to deliver on. And my concern is, if we deliberate today and we hold this process up, that level of savings and income that we all have to deliver over and above libraries and one-stop shops next year is going to get held up. And that means we will have to come back to you and say, because of the hold-up, we're going to have to propose closures. And that's not a threat. There is nothing else left for us to do. And that's me speaking very honestly and openly with you. The other thing I would say as well is that corporate assessment, all of the key areas of corporacy aside from finance actually fall in my areas. So with people development, with HR, with IT, business growth, strategic assets, they all come under enterprise. And we know that some of the key tracer objectives, some of the key things that Wales Audit Office will be looking at, fall into our territory almost exclusively as well. So I suppose my big concern is if we don't have the go-ahead and we can't get these proposals in place, then it's going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible, for us to deliver on the 1.72 million that we have to find next year. So the libraries and the one-stop shops, that will go to council anyway because there's a specific mandate on it. But if we don't have the structure in place, we can't even begin to do the work. And I'll give you the example, Whole Place. Up to date, we haven't had a team or a budget for Whole Place. Deb and I have done it in our spare time. You know, we've brought millions of pounds into these areas and we've been doing it in our spare time. We can't keep doing that. I can't keep asking these guys to work evenings and weekends. It's unsustainable. We absolutely have to make some decisions here. And I appreciate the libraries and the one-stop shops is a specific scenario, but there has to be a way of perhaps separating that to enable us to get on and make the progress that we clearly need to. Otherwise, we're going to be coming back, I'm afraid, with some really, really unpalatable decisions.
Thank you, Kelly. Can I bring members in now, please? Any questions to the senior team? No, Phil, you're a cabinet member. Any members, any questions?
Thank you, Chairman. Once again, you've made a wonderful presentation to us. But I have to say, sadly, I would like to have known these things were happening whilst they were happening, not just whispers from people who went in the one-stop shops and said they heard that things were happening. We did have a subgroup, and we worked very hard a couple of years ago and last year, working to discover together what could be done with the one-stop shops and the libraries. In my book, One-Stop Shop, and you may not like the term, is the front of house for the citizens of this county and the councillors to keep a finger on the pulse of what's important, what's happening, where we're going. If you have the one-stop shop, I'm not happy, and I never have been, and I'm sure this is documented somewhere, with putting libraries and one-stop shops together. They are totally different bodies in my book, but you know my opinions on that. But one-stop shops are so important. And if we're top-heavy with management and not enough people sat at the desks looking, and I know you've said no to this, I've heard what you've said, but it would have been nice if we could have been part of that, not just finish when one of our managers, one of our officers finished his term. It all came to a grinding halt and none of us knew what was happening. And you're saying this is going to still go to council. Am I right? This decision on the one-stop shops
That's
will
right,
still go to
Councillor. I think
I'm so pleased to hear that,
Yeah.
because I'm sure a lot of us in the council have a lot to say on that, and it needs to be heard, really.
Absolutely, and you're right. I think the point that I would make is the report that you have in front of you today is called Building the Capacity and the Establishment for Enterprise. And library and one-stop shops is a very important part of that, but it's not the whole report. And that is a separate mandate that's going through the budget process. No decisions have been made as yet, but we need a base staffing structure in place to even be able to do the basics, to consult, to do that exercise. And if that mandate goes to council as part of the budget and it gets turned down, then we will have to reverse our structure. I suppose what I'm asking is that the reason today for holding up the wider structure? And is there some way of focusing on that more discreetly so we're able to make progress on the other areas that we have to? We absolutely have to.
May I just step in there? Sue, very valid point there. The issue, I think, is all round the decision log reference to structure, and it's evidence-based here that in F and G of the decision log 3.5, it clearly states a reduction of 13 full-time resulting from the integration of the library and one-stop shop services. G, a reduction in libraries management team from 4 full-times to 2.5 and a reduction in 1 full-time support staff post. That's clearly evident in the document. And I will be clear, and I think everybody would agree, that if that was not in that mandate, we may not be here today. The other ones we would work on. That is a decision log, and it's quite clear in there, F and G, that we are going to cut posts in that directorate and in them departments. There's not, you can't say it's not. So, from today, what you've had your answer to, Sue, is, will we have another discussion of what we do with libraries? Yes, we will, but the decision here is that the staff are going to be cut. It's here, it's clear, and it's plain. Can I just allow members? Members, have you any more questions? I'll let you in, Deb. Val, you had your hand up?
No. Not at the moment, Chairman, thank you.
All right.
I was going to say, the One Stop Shop in Abergavenny has presented a paper with various alternative ways of working. Presumably, you'll take that into account when you discuss with them the way forward. The principle here is that there's going to be a reduction in manpower, and then with that reduced structure, you then decide how you operate thereafter. That's correct, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, any more members? No? May I ask one question then, on your mandate there, which you've got for the budget, this management you're going to put in place, you did state there that we are struggling to manage 14-15. We haven't seen Q2, month 6 yet as a select, but it was clear to me there that the cuts you had to make last year or this financial year, it isn't easy. And what we're saying, we're putting a structure in place for the budget proposals for 15-16, and we're putting it in early. Is that correct? We're trying to do it a bit early. Because looking at them, I've got no issues from A to I with anything you've put there, but the biggest thing which reflects to me on F and G is exactly possibly why we're here today is we're putting the horse, give me the turn now, we're putting the water before the horse before he even jumps over the jump. And I think that's what members are actually concerned about, is we're restructuring something. We don't know what we're restructuring yet. Yeah. And I think that's one reason why we're sat here today. Is if F and G would not have been in this mandate, we wouldn't be sitting here. And the concerns members have is about F and G, about the realignment of libraries and one-stop shops and the posts being cut. They may have proposals in Abergavenny of a new structure to put before officers. No problem, that's brilliant. But the decision log clearly states that there will be 13 posts going, and we will be reducing 1.5 and a full-time post during for the libraries team. Whether they've got a proposal on the table from Abergavenny, that's brilliant, but it doesn't alter the mandate here.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to comment a little bit about the tone of this at the moment. I'm concerned about this. We're here to scrutinise. That's our function. It might be uncomfortable for some of the officers that we choose to scrutinise, and some of the things that we come up with, but that is our remit and we're free to do that. I don't like being told it's time to get real. I think we all know about getting real here. And as far as working hours, I applaud the working hours that the officers make. But I have to say, some of us as members do hours beyond our remit, if you like. In fact, we don't have any hours stipulated. Some people who get emails from me will see that they happen in the early hours of the morning. we're here to scrutinise and we're here to measure risk. And it's a risk to the service. And what concerns members here is the fact that the losses of jobs seem to be in the wrong procedure. As has been said, we've got the thing the wrong way round, or it appears that we've got the thing the wrong way round. I, at another meeting of this group last week, said I was quite, when we talked, Chepstow has been spoken about earlier, as by Councillor Farley particularly. I said at that meeting I was happy about the telephony system going into Chepstow, although we didn't know the details of the telephony system. We weren't briefed on that, or I wasn't. I must admit I've missed some of the meeting. But what I am unhappy about is the remodelling of Chepstow. And I'd speak to Chepstow particularly. Other councillors can talk about the facility in the other hubs. But I said at that meeting I was totally unhappy about the fact that people who were coming into the one-stop shop, which is a particular and personal thing, that you go into the one-stop shop on the whole, are going to be in the same area where you're trying to run a library. I was concerned about the retraining and whether staff were happy about that, whether it was the right thing to do, whether we'd get staff vote but with their feet and leave, which would perhaps, I think, in the main, react on the library. Deb said that she felt the staff in Chepstow were up for it. I personally, that doesn't make me feel any different at all as far as the facility is concerned. I don't think you can mix the two sections of public going into the same building into one room. And Chepstow works as it is because it's separate facilities. That's what makes it, part of what makes it a success. It's also in the right place. It's easy car park. It drives footfall in the town. You can come up with n number of reasons why Chepstow is a success, but it isn't a success. It is a success because things are being done right there. By all means, improve the technology or the facilities within Chepstow, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater with a system that works because the two functions are separate. The two functions, in my view, must remain separate. If you want to do something in some other town, in some other facility, then that is down to other members to argue about that. I think it would be wrong. But if you're going to do it in Chepstow, I will oppose it because I think it is fundamentally wrong.
Okay, thanks.
I haven't changed it.
Have any of the members, before I bring officers and the cabinet member in, I will allow the call-ins to come back in. Kevin? Val? Kevin, can I just, you will not get an opportunity because once I start bringing cabinet members in and the officers then to sum up then on what they've been asked of, we then go into a sort of process of, so if you want to say anything, I'll bring Val in and then come in. All right, thanks. Val?
No, I accept, Chairman, that change is necessary. We've got stiff financial targets to meet. We've got to find ways of making the money go farther and making it better. But at the same time, I do feel this report is premature because I feel a very ill-informed member. Suddenly this report appears before me. Some time ago, you and myself, we were looking at telephony systems. It was an initiative that just disappeared into the ether. And then suddenly last week, the first thing we hear is the system has been purchased. Information to members as you go along so that we can build the picture and not throw it all at us at once. I do feel it's premature. Trying to do the whole thing now in one fell swoop is wrong. I can accept that certain parts, certain initiatives are, okay, I can move with this, I can move with this. This hasn't been confirmed. We don't know what the arrangements are. Okay, use Abergavenny, use Monmouth. We don't know what. Therefore, let's do some more work, or else do it in smaller sections. But looking at the whole, it is possible. As an elected member, Chairman, I feel very, very ill-informed. I've read the report, I've read it again. I still feel that it is premature. There's more thought, there's more work that needs to go in, more decisions, so that the public, whom we're all here to serve, supposedly, actually know where we're going. That we don't say, hi, this is fine, and whoops, that's what you're getting. So I have grave reservations. And I do hear constantly about the whole place. And I would welcome some examples of the millions that we've made through that initiative. To me, it seems like a structure of bones without any meat on. I, as a member, cannot identify what's what.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. Any other members? Can you turn your mic on, please? Okay. Right, can I have senior officers now? Yeah, okay, Kevin, yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that, Chair. I wasn't aware that once the officers have spoke, that would be it. So, my concerns hinge around the libraries and one-stop shops. Combining them, I think, will be difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it will be hard because they are two different things in my book. We're losing a lot of experienced and intelligent people from our one-stop shops. We're losing 13. I'm not happy about that. I think we need to revisit it and have a look and see if we can do it better without having such an impact on our staff. I'm also concerned about the call centre going down into Chepstow at the far end of the county, purely because anybody that lives north of Abergavenny, it would cost them a fortune to get back and forth every day. And I think we really need to think about where we're going to locate this for the staff that are actually recruited to it. If somebody was travelling from Ebervale, for instance, to go back and forth from Ebervale to Chepstow every day is a lot to put on them. Families are not overrun with cash these days. Everybody's finding it tight. And I think to put that on our staff now at this time is wrong. And I think we need to really think about where that's going to be located for the best interest of the staff, rather than just say we've got an empty room and that's where we're going to put it. Again, everybody said the same thing. It's about the libraries and one-stop shops. In the main, the rest of it is, you know, we'll knock one off here and add one in here. I'm not quite sure of the maths on it, though, Cal, when you said you're creating, you know, a net loss of managers. It seems to me that we've created 12 and I think we've lost 4. But you'd have to explain it to me because it is a little bit confusing with the mandates as they are.
Thanks for that, Kevin. Can I ask senior officers now and the cabinet members? We have 2 here today. Any comments, any answers to some of the queries and questions? And Phil, I'll allow you to come in then once senior officers finish. Go on,
okay.
then, Phil.
Thank you very much, Chair. I don't want to spend my time going through what Kelly has already said, and I'm sure that the senior officers are going to give a lot of the explanations, so I won't do that either. What I do want to do is reiterate from a cabinet point of view some of the points that have been made. The fact that something works doesn't mean to say that it won't work in another way. Every time we have innovated in all the aspects of this authority, we have changed the structure, and that has given us an indication as to further changes of structure that have enabled us to make further savings. The present structure is too expensive to survive. It's very good in many respects, but it can't stay that way. If we are to delay this process so that we can work out whether or not we ought to do something, there will be no something to do it with. If we don't get this structure right and Don't forget, this call-in is about the structure. It's on a report that talks about the structure necessary to get the work completed to support the budget mandates. And if we don't get that structure right and we don't get the work completed, we will run out of money in that directorate. That will mean wholesale closures, the like of which nobody in this authority has seen. So when Kelly uses the term "get real," she doesn't mean it in any derogatory sense whatsoever. What we are talking about is the survival or closure of these services. Now, if we're going to retain these services, we will have to retain them in a different way. The option of leaving them as they are isn't there. So I don't like giving messages like this out. We are in a position where our funding has been cut so dramatically that unless we do these things, we will be closing the services that everybody values so greatly. So there is just the other point that a lot of this will crop up again in mandates. It will be part of the budget discussions and will be at full council. So let's just concentrate on getting the structure right. Let's concentrate on enabling officers to save these services rather than causing delays that will end up in us losing them. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hobson, have you any small comment to make?
Thank you, Chair. I'm trying to find where we've got common ground and where we agree, and I think there are areas of agreement and there are areas of disagreement, and I think it's quite clear that items F and G are the ones that are probably causing the most concern. I'll come back to F and G at the end. Councillor White is absolutely right. The one-stop shops are front of house, and also libraries are a community hub. They're both community hubs, one-stops and libraries. If we can agree at the moment that's what they both are, and they're similar as being front line, and that's where people see and touch and their interaction with the county, then let's just put that aside. We agree about that. I think we can also agree that the unprecedented financial times, and what we need to do is, in the face of that, we're going to have to reconfigure our frontline services in order to save them. I think there's agreement on that as well. Where there's disagreement is how we're going to do it, where we're going to do it in each town. And I fully appreciate and understand where those concerns are coming from. I can only speak for the one-stop shop side of things. This is my fear. If I don't agree, or had not agreed, to hubbing two frontline services together to be that contact with residents, then you know and I know the first things that tend to go are the ones that are not statutorily mandated. Libraries have statutory framework, one-stop shops do not. So it's a choice. Is that what I'm going to be left with? And my fear is, by the week, the chances of losing a service completely, and remember where we are now, if we close a service down, it's not coming back for a generation. I would be loathed, I would be extremely upset, knowing the teams in each of the towns having to say that service is being closed. That would be, I can't find words for it. I find it very upsetting. What I'm trying to do is, by agreeing to hubbing the two front lines together, it saves the service and it saves as many jobs as we can possibly do, because otherwise they're gone. And that's a horrible situation to be in. So I think we can agree we want to save the jobs, we want to save the frontline services, and it's pointing towards we hub where we can. I fully appreciate, as I said in committee last week, with the case of Abergavenny, there is a luxury of choice, of a manoeuvrability and flexibility in what we do and where we do it and how we do it. Fully appreciate that, and that's going to need some reworking. There are questions at Monmouth we need to solve. Councillor Dovey has legitimate concerns, and they are legitimate concerns about. There's quite a lot of sensitive conversations that go with our one-stop shops staff. They are very professional how they handle it. You wouldn't believe what they have to handle and the types of inquiries. Well, okay, you do that. That's why we have confidential rooms. When people go in with those very sensitive requests now, it's in a public arena as it would be in a library situation. So there's no change in that setup. Obviously, there'll be space for that confidential consultation. That's not going to change. Now, I appreciate if there's something going on in the library, as Councillor Farley has said, and you're walking in, you're hearing, we had it on Friday at a launch, we had primary school children in, and of course they make noise. They're supposed to make noise. It makes it a little bit difficult when you're trying to do an IT launch for people that are not digitally connected. So I've had very recent experience of how it may not gel together. I think we've got talent in our teams, both in library services and one-stop shops, that can overcome that. I'm absolutely confident of that. So I know your fears, I'm hearing those, and that's another thing, another aspect we have to work on. However, it doesn't come back to the framework that needs to be in, and Councillor Smith said, I think this is premature. Point taken, absolutely. I think we're in a chicken and egg situation here for myself. I don't know which one goes first. Do you put the framework in first to say this will be the staffing structure and then work with that, knowing the bounds of what you've got within your budget constraints? Or do you redesign your service and then do the staffing structure? I'm not certain which one goes before the other. It can't be done together at the moment. So I'm wondering, is it premature? I fully appreciate your point. I think it's down to a choice which one went first.
Thank you, Councillor.
Just to finish off then, I just want to make sure that I have replied to every member. What I would say is, if it's F and G, those two items which are causing the concern, and the Chair has said we would not be here today, would you be happy to approve today all items except for F and G? And that goes back to Cabinet.
Councillor Hobson, it's now up to you to make that decision.
No. I'm just making that offer as a compromise.
There's no offer to be made, Councillor Hobson, at the moment. We're still in the calling, and we will get to where we go probably in the next few moments.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Clearly, most of the concern this morning, if not all of the concern this morning, has been around the one-stop shop library integration and the structures purporting to that, rather than any other content within the report. And you'll appreciate that within the community-led delivery, there are a substantial number of people also caught up in this process who are as anxious as everybody else for us to conclude that. So if I just talk at this moment, see there doesn't appear to be any concerns around any other areas of the structure other than the hubs. At Cabinet, I was asked whether I was intending to implement the community hub structure until such time we understood the budget mandate process. I was very clear in my response to Councillor Dimitri Vetterini that no, I wouldn't be. I would not be looking to implement that structure until such time that the budget mandate process has gone through scrutiny. It's already went through a meeting last week. It will go through another scrutiny process by yourselves in December. It is also currently out for public consultation, and as Kelly mentioned earlier, we've already been out and met the town team. We're going to meet with them again so they can outline their proposals. We are also meeting with our colleagues. We're meeting with colleagues from tomorrow because obviously we wanted to be able to explain to them what had happened today to give them some surety in the process of what was happening. The reason why the proposals are in this report is if we took forward a budget mandate on the hubs and didn't give you what the staffing structure is likely to look like with £300,000 savings, we would be going through this process later on. By giving you all of this information now, you have all of that information in front of you, you have a clear picture, and you know the impact of the decisions you're likely to make. by all means, if we could find funding elsewhere within the budget that says we don't have to make the 300,000 savings, then that's the solution to this problem. But we're not there. We have been told we have got to make those savings. We will take on board all of the comments that we get from our colleagues, all of the comments that we get from members of the public, and we will try and adapt the structure to meet those comments. There are a couple of issues that have already been raised as well about my colleagues' abilities, and I think we had a healthy debate about that last week, Councillor Divvy. I remain absolutely convinced that we have a very strong team of people who are highly skilled in the areas of work that they currently work within. I don't believe that by calling someone a librarian, you narrow their abilities to undertake one-stop shop work and vice versa. They are all in those roles because they are absolutely committed to public service. They are all information providers and supporters. Some do it through the medium of books and IT, others do it through face-to-face interaction and interviews in the one-stop shops. I absolutely believe our colleagues in those teams can integrate and will provide the best service that they are able to provide within the budget's constraints provided to them. I've also heard a lot of discussion today about buildings. That's not the purpose of this report. Buildings are just bricks and mortar and their space. It's the service that's delivered through those buildings, which is what we highly value. And that's what we're trying to protect. The issue of buildings is part of the budget mandate process. You were very clear last week that you expect more detail on the accommodation issues when we come back to you in December, and that's what we will seek to do. So what I try to express to you is, please don't judge the staff and their abilities and delay that process based on what buildings might deliver it from. The concept of hubs is new to Monmouthshire. It is not new to the rest of Wales. Colleagues and I met with Cymru last week where they actually informed us that WAG are very keen to promote hubs and they're already out there operating successfully in other areas. It's just a new concept to us. As I also said to you last week, we might not get it right on our first iteration of this hub concept. It might well mean it's 6 months after we implement them, staff are going to come back to us with fantastic ideas, users are going to come back to us with fantastic ideas of how perhaps we've designed the space incorrectly or how we can make that service more effective. But we don't know until we implement it, and we are here with this proposal because of the budget mandate in front of us and the need to make savings. This proposal was raised in the budget mandates last year. The concept of hubs was not introduced in this financial budget mandate process, it was last year. And it was asked last year that we consider them. Now, if we didn't find ourselves in a position back in the summer where we were being told that the budget savings were higher than we originally anticipated, we might well have had more time to come, consult, model, come back to the drawing board, remodel again, but we're not in that position. We have to make those savings, but at the same time, it's very important to us that we future-proof those services. Not worry about buildings, but we future-proof those services for users, and to the best of our ability, we maximise the number of officers, colleagues, that are in those roles. This is the best position that we've been able to come up with at this moment in time. No doubt, other officers will come up with that and other colleagues will come up with that through that process. But that's all I wanted to say at this point.
All right, thank you. Other officers, anything else? No? Okay.
Chair, I was just going to reiterate that we expected the budget mandate to have primacy over the Cabinet report. So going back to your very valid point about F&G, we wouldn't be looking to implement the structure until the budget mandate was approved by Council, if you get what I mean. So there was going to be a sequence and an order to how we did things.
All right, thank you. I'm going to allow the call-in recipients to come back in, and then we'll move forward, David, okay? Yeah, okay, Dave. Roger.
Thank you, Chair. I've never impugned the integrity of officers out there, and I never will. And you all know, you're senior people. You don't work 37-hour weeks, and nobody in your position in any authority or any company actually does that, because it's just not the way it goes. And I know you work extremely hard, and if you like, over and beyond what your statutory duties are. So I've got no problems there. You all work very hard, and for the people of the county. So the reason we're here is because we've got a decision log from the 5th of November, and it's down in front of us, and I'll read it out because it's important people out there are listening. To agree to the establishment of the proposed management and staff structures for the Enterprise Directorate, recognising that ongoing service reviews will result in further reports needing to be subsequently brought forward. So we're acknowledging there's got to be further reports. To agree to the creation and deletion of posts contained within 3.5 of this report. So Cabinet has said we're going to do that. No argument about it, we're going to do it. Or have I got that wrong? And we've seen what's in 3.5, and we're talking about some of them now. To agree that any amendments to the structure that may arise through the consultation exercise currently underway will be approved by the Chief Officer for Enterprise in consultation with the relevant Cabinet members, subject to any alterations, continuing to provide the savings required in the approved budget. So we're going to have consultations, but we've agreed that we're going to get rid of staff in any case, but we may not, after the consultations, actually be doing that. So we could be in a bit of a problem there. And Kelly mentioned the fact that with the managers, there's going to be a reduction rather than an increase. And if you look at page 22 of the bundle, and it's something that I can't quite square, 5.1, conclusion, 5.1, the proposals see a net increase in 2 full-time equivalent posts, with 3 posts being deleted and 5 posts being created. It's not a decrease, or am I being silly, Kelly? But that's what it's under the heading of managers, one way or another.
Chair, can I ask my colleagues just to give a breakdown of the complement of managerial posts within their section, so you've got that very clearly, because I'm conscious it's a question that Councillor Williams asked as well.
Could we be clear on what page we are so every member knows what we're looking at? Roger, could you just give us precise
I'm on
page number?
22 with the conclusions.
It's on the...
And it doesn't say... on page 22 of our bundle
right, okay, yeah.
Today.
Everybody got that? Yeah, okay, thank you. Right, can you just go through that, Peter, with us, please?
Can I just clarify, specifically 5.1 you're referring to?
Yes.
On page 22 of the bundle?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
It does say commercial and people development management structure at the, so don't, you could confuse a stupid person.
So this is one of 3 parts of the report, and this specifically refers, this part of the appendix specifically refers to my part of, my portfolio. So certainly in terms of the increase in, or the net increase in 2 full-time equivalent posts, I am, in essence, I have 3 parts to my portfolio. One is around business growth and enterprise. Kelly referred to that earlier, and we debated the business growth and enterprise strategy in council recently. And certainly an acceptance and an absolute need for us to consolidate some additional capacity in that area. So there is an increase of 1 full-time equivalent post in that team, certainly to support delivery on what is the authority's 3rd strategic priority around enterprise business growth and job creation. In terms of the digital and technology side of things, I have a deletion of a post and a creation of a post, which is a net neutral position. And then in the people and organisational development area of the business, which is certainly absolutely key and critical in allowing us to support our workforce going forward with the changes that we all have to deliver against. I have a situation where I have a net increase of 1 post. That net increase is in relation to a HR manager post, and that post, whilst I accept when looked at in isolation, it is a net increase of 1. We will be instigating a HR review in parallel to this process, and I will be looking to absorb that increase in post from the conclusions of the HR review. So I very much anticipate that certainly across my structure, and certainly in terms of HR, that position will be brought back into parity and end up neutral again.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
Can I just ask if that clarifies it, because that kind of takes it out of context, because that looks just at Peter's aspect of the business, and I think what we're trying to say, excuse me, overall is there is a net loss, but 5.1 just refers to commercial and people development, and as I said earlier, in the area of business growth and enterprise, it is not adequate for us to have 2 members of staff in that team delivering the whole of the economic development brief. We just can't do it.
Roger, you got supplementary?
No, it's just to say, it's actually down in front of us there, and it just, if it's not the case, it's just confusing.
It is the case in Peter's
you
area.
Understand the officers speak, but you're talking to us that got really not a lot of idea at times.
I think the point is, I think Peter made the point is he will be looking. But that's not to say it'll happen. Is that correct? Or you may not be able to make it happen, but you will be looking. But what we had before is it's done.
Yes.
So that is the difference. Is when you have documents like this, they are there, and if you don't hit it, you don't make it. It doesn't happen. But if you're looking to do it, great. But that's what we got before us.
Chair, can I just clarify? There is a net decrease in managerial posts across enterprise. The posts that Peter was talking about are just within his section of enterprise. So that, to take it out of context, that's just 2 posts in commercial and people development, compensated by loss of posts in the other 2 areas. So overall, it's a net reduction.
Thanks, Kelly. Last one, Tony Eason, Councillor Eason, and I'll bring David in for 30.
I must have some disagreement with Deb on the fact that when I introduced my first comments that we were talking about the building the establishment capacity for enterprise, particularly in this aspect, the one that caused the most furore is around the one-stop shops and libraries. I did question Cabinet's decision in March of this year, where Cabinet agreed to delete certain posts. Cabinet has now agreed to reinstate those posts on the basis of recommendations from officers. This is my question. Why is Cabinet not scrutinising from one report to another? And Councillor Williams made it quite clear that, in his view, there's been a net increase in jobs at a higher sphere. Okay, they may all put their hands down the drain, which I don't disagree with. But we seem to be building a house without a foundation. We seem to be putting the roof on, but we haven't got the foundations for it. I believe that the intentions you're making are in the right direction, but we need to have the foundation of how we deliver those services so that we can have the proper structure above them to monitor and manage those services. You deleted the post of estates manager in March. You're re-establishing that post. Now, it's in black and white. I'm not disagreeing with the intentions, but I'm asking why Cabinet cannot scrutinise reports to prevent us coming back as call-ins.
Sorry, Chairman, can I just ask?
You can answer that one question and clarification on the estates manager's post.
It's just one of a numerous number of jobs which were deleted and are being reinstated.
Can you just answer that, Debbie? Yes or no?
The Estates and Sustainability Manager post was deleted. You're quite correct. There is a new post being put in at a lower grade of Estates Manager to manage the estates team, and what will be, if you look at the structure, also including now markets and cemeteries as well.
Okay. Tony, supplementary?
Yes, I believe this should have probably been thought out properly in March, not in November, where it gives the impression that you're creating more jobs at the top sphere.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Councillor Dovey, last one, and then we need to move forward, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not too exercised by job titles, providing whether it's a manager, sub-manager, whatever, long as the job is justifiable and can be, can be, it's open to justifying itself, whatever. Could I just come back to on the hubs? When you said to me that the staff were up for this, their change of position, their roles, if you like, and were capable of being trained, I took that, if you remember. I said, well, if that is the case, I cannot quibble with it. But the point I'm trying to make here is, a definition of a hub is a concentration of services, multi-services in one place. What I am concerned about is putting all those services in one location within the hub. If you train your staff so that they can multitask, you can move your staff within the hub. If there are pressures in one area, you can move staff across. That's what gives you flexibility. That's what makes hubs work. What I am saying is, I repeat it yet again, I do not believe that the one-stop shop should be in the area that is occupied by the library. I think the two things conflict. I just am totally opposed to that.
Okay, thanks, Councillor David. Peter? Councillor Farley.
Thank you, Chair. I must say I am considerably reassured by some of the things that we've heard this morning, and I'd like to thank the officers for that. I started, if you remember, grounding my concerns in F and G, the two that we keep coming back to. I'd just like to mention a remaining concern, and that is about how consultation may be done in Chepstow. We don't have the benefit of town teams and what have you, so I would expect that there will be some recognition of that in the way in which consultation is done in Chepstow. There is a Friends of the Library, for example. I think they ought to be involved if they haven't been already. And as a local member, I would expect to be engaged as well. But I will restate that I am considerably reassured by what we've heard this morning, and thank the officers for that.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Right, can we move forward, please? As you know, Select, we have a direction of where we can go. Can I just address Select now? It is very evidently clear that F and G within the agreement in the decision log is one of our main principles of concern. We have no guarantees that F and G will be realigned with our views today, because we have to take what is before us, and the decision log is quite clear. Now, we have two cabinet members with us today, and one cabinet member actually probably agrees with us, but it's not his decision. So I want to be very clear now on what direction we as a Select are going to make, because the direction I think that we were looking at is not within our mandate. Our direction is we can either accept the Cabinet's decision or refer the matter to Cabinet for reconsideration with reasons, which possibly could be, or refer the matter back to full council for reconsideration. And I'll take number 2 and advise my Select, if the Cabinet were willing to reconsider and withdraw F and G, possibly that would be a direction which we could go down, but I have no guarantees on that. Now, that is what we have to decide as a Select, which direction we have to go in. If I had the guarantees, I would be far more than happy for me personally, to send it back to Cabinet for reconsideration. The officers are quite clear as well. They perhaps feel that F and G needs a different direction, but I need to know what you believe as a Select committee as well. Can I have any steer from yourselves on that, please? David?
Yes, Chairman. I think the way to go back is to go back, refer it back to the Cabinet. I have belief in the integrity of the Cabinet. I think the debate here today has been a good one. and I'm sure that the Cabinet will listen and reconsider properly.
Okay, thanks, David. So what we're saying is possibly F and G. Just turn your mic off, Councillor Dovey, please. F and G will be possibly looking for a proposal in the second to take it back to Cabinet with a separate report to come on F and G, one-stop shops and libraries. Is that what we will be looking for? For consultation and back to the Select Committee. Is that what you'd be looking for, Councillor Dovey? Okay. Have any other comments to be made by the Select Committee? No? Right. Three directions there. Accept the Cabinet decision, refer the matter back to Cabinet for reconsideration with reasons, or refer the matter back to full Council. I've had a proposal off Councillor Dovey that it's referred back to Cabinet. Do I have a seconder for that proposal? I have Councillor White. Have any other recommendations there? No?
Chair, am I allowed to vote on this matter?
Yes, you are. Have you any other proposals out there? No? Right. With the senior scrutiny officer now on where we go with the vote now, please.
So just to be clear, Chair, you're suggesting that you refer the matter back to Cabinet for reconsideration and that you're asking that F and G be removed from this report, in which case you would support this report, and that F and G form a separate report which would be drafted in line with the budget considerations, but would be for decision after the budget mandates had been through the council and also once the consultation process had been finished. Is that correct?
Are we very clear? Okay. May I have a show of hands, please, for that decision?
Sorry.
Against? One against. I think that's everybody voted and the matter's closed, okay? There will be a decision from our meeting today and that will be as quickly as possible referred back to Cabinet. Could I just ask when your next Cabinet meeting is, please? Just remind me, I'm not too sure. Anybody know?
I'll check now, Chair, but no, it's the first weekend, first week of December now.
Okay. 3rd of December. Okay, so hopefully we should see it in Cabinet before that. All right, thank you. Right, thank you, officers, and thank you, members, and thank you to call-in signatures. Can I just take members now into, or would you like 2 minutes, or do you want to get straight into number 7? Deferred. 2 minutes? 2 minutes? Thank you. Right, good morning, members. Let's go to number 7. We did have a separate document for it, if you would like it. I'm sure we'll have a go, if we're all not worn out. Everybody got the document? Yeah, and let the scrutiny officers just come in for 2 seconds on this one.
This item was deferred from your last meeting because we ran out of time. The officer that would have presented this report to you today had unfortunately already booked leave today, and when I told him the item was deferred, he did offer to come in, but we said it wasn't necessary for him to cancel his leave. Another officer was going to take it on his behalf, and unfortunately she's poorly today. So the document is there as presented for you to ask any questions, and we do have officers in front of us today who would be able to answer those questions. It's a performance report, one of your regular performance reports, so rather than going through it in detail, I'm sure you've read it. If you've got any questions, they can be directed through the chair. Thanks.
Okay, members, anything on there? Tony?
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, sorry, Chair. I'm live dying. Page 109 or page 11, percentage of municipal waste sent to landfill. Is there any further comments on that? Because it's going down and down. 20% actual. It's a successful rate of performance, but any further comments on that one?
I'm sure we can direct the question to Rachel. May I just comment on there? Percentage of municipal waste sent to landfill. 14-15 figures are going to be slightly obscured, aren't they? Because we actually sending waste now to the incinerator in Cardiff on trial basis. Is that correct? It is, isn't it? So them figures we have for 14-15 are going to be slightly obscured. So we'll probably only be able to take 6 months figures for next monitoring. Is that correct? Peter Davis, you look like you want to give me an answer to something there. Thank you.
It's just slightly dragging up my past, actually, with my involvement with Project Gwyrdd, but I'd certainly anticipate, and I think the comment does touch on there with regards to the target being revised on successful conclusion of Project Gwyrdd. So I would certainly anticipate the target to be adjusted accordingly.
Can we just make sure that is pointed out to officers then when they do bring a target, it'll have to be obscured for this financial year at least? Okay.
And could we refer it to the fact of the percentage of municipal waste recycled and composted? They both tie in, because I think it's a good direction to go, because this council has a 62% target, which is higher than anyone in Wales, and quite frankly is beneficial across better than across many parts of Britain.
Thank you, Councillor Eason. Okay, anything else? No? Any more questions from members? No? Can I just ask, David, sorry?
Sorry, Chairman. Just on page 5, 103, and it's we're talking about the roadshows and engaging the public, etc. Are we making a really focused effort to encourage to speak to businesses? I always say this, and I don't mean businesses just in the high street. I mean, we do have a multiplicity of businesses throughout the county. We also have a lot of people retired with business backgrounds. But as far as this is concerned, various businesses, are we speaking to them? Do we write to them directly? Do we say, you know, you are an integral part of our county, and well, what expertise or what you can bring to help us? Yes, please, we would like to have it. You know, Kelly, all the questions, but I feel that we don't integrate with our businesses that well. I mean, in Chepstow there are some businesses, and they seem not to hear from us, if you like. And I think we're missing it. It's one of these things I've been banging on about for ages, you know that. So do we? Or will we? If we don't, will we?
Chair, if I can just, I think you're right. I think there's always a lot more that we can do with our businesses. And Councillor Dovey, you've been quite instrumental in naming a number of businesses to me that we haven't previously been made aware of. So that's great that, you know, we're all playing our part in ensuring that interaction takes place. But as part of the business growth and enterprise strategy, you'll see that the forward for that actually came from a member of the Abergavenny Business Club. And Pete, you and Kath have done quite an extensive exercise throughout the summer, because we did Monmouthshire Engages community. We tried to do Monmouthshire Engages business as well. So Pete, if you can just give a few words just to bring members up to date on what that actually comprised.
Yes, Kelly's absolutely right there, and we managed to piggyback off the consultation for the local development strategy and the rural development programme, and we went through an engagement and consultation process through the months of July, August and September. But we've twin-tracked that activity by meeting with Chambers of Commerce formally and informally, and also alongside other business partners, developing some of those relationships, which I think have certainly been strengthened of late. It's for me, it's a developing and emerging piece of work, this, and I completely echo the points that you've made there in terms of the importance of engaging with the business community. There is further work that we need to do in developing some of our business networks out, so that we are operating far more proactively than reactively in responding to the needs of businesses.
Okay, Councillor Dovey.
Yes, could I touch on another one? Yes, it is the policy that we have. We'll look at that. This is with regard to properties that we're likely to dispose of. That's assets, yes. 102, small 4. Are those ranked? Do those come in front of us? I'm minded of one that we've sold relatively recently, and what has happened to that property post selling it. Almost looks like it is an opportunity that we have missed. Yeah. So are these likely to come in front of us with some sort of ranking? When I say us, I mean, you know, the widest sense, so that we could pass a cursory eye over them and have some idea, perhaps, that that asset could be used more profitably than just selling it.
Could I just ask there, Councillor Dovey, what we're trying to say is that assets that we have, we're unclear, or members are unclear, if they become, let's say, go onto the open market for sale, that members have no idea that this is happening, or where are we going there? Because I thought we had a policy where any asset within an area of Monmouthshire, within that local area, i.e. members area, over a certain value, members were notified about the sale. Is that correct? Can anybody answer that? I thought it was over £10,000. Am I wrong in right? I'm not. It was £10,000. Deb?
Yeah, there's a de minimis around the disposals of assets, and less than 10,000 they could be handled by officers. Colleagues should be contacting members in their local area to make them aware that we're disposing of assets, and they also feature in the MTFP that gets approved every year. So members should be aware of the assets we're disposing of. I'd very much like to understand the asset you think that we have missed an opportunity on, because colleagues spend a lot of time before we dispose of an asset, working it up, dealing with planners, etc., to make sure that we do maximise the development value or any potential before we actually dispose of it. And we also build into any sales clawbacks and overage covenants where appropriate, to make sure that if there is something that we've potentially not foreseen, then we can recover that back at a subsequent date.
Councillor Dovey, I don't want to know whether there are assets that you believe we should name in them. What you're saying there is perhaps we should be asking whoever is in charge of the assets that are they carrying out due diligence in making sure we have best value?
That's right. Because I can't remember, perhaps I don't have any assets.
Because we do have an asset management strategy, and I believe we did have a look at that document, didn't we, as a select committee? Yes, okay. So what you're saying, Councillor Dovey, perhaps we're not adhering to that strategy?
Well, perhaps I'm missing it, and maybe it is because I don't have that sort of property within my patch, if you like. But I am aware of one, and perhaps the officer and I can speak afterward, because I'd like to be clear about it rather than expose it here and then be wrong.
So it's the consultation part of it, Councillor Dovey, isn't it? Are we adhering to it?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say, Councillor Dovey's absolutely right, though, about the points around what do we do with an asset? Do we just sell it? You know, there is such a thing as opportunity cost, and we have tried to build that into the strategic asset management plan, Councillor Dovey. So if there is a richer use we can put that asset to, that doesn't mean jam today, but longer term, it can derive better value for us, then we can certainly consider that. And one of the policies that Deb has actually just written and built into the strategic asset management plan is something called the community right to bid, which gives us the opportunity to work with the community to see if they could actually take on the asset and do something with it that would derive a significant community purpose. So you're right, and it's something that we've tried to incorporate. We obviously need to ensure, though, that you're getting the communication so you can be part of that process.
But if consultation isn't not happening with members on disposal of assets, we need to know as well, and I think it's up to members to let us know that as select, and perhaps we can make sure that officers are well aware of the document we have, and just remind them that they must consult. Thank you, Dave. That's a very valid point. Kevin Williams, Councillor Williams.
Yeah, thank you. Page 13, the second table, I guess this is one for you, Calvin, is under enterprise. It says the number of days, calendar days taken to deliver a disabled facilities grant. It says 230. Now, I've had a bit of experience of these things, and that seems an awful long time. What is that for? Is that for doing the work as well and getting it completed, or is it for just processing the grant? And there's no decrease in the target either, so it makes me think,
Yeah, through you, Chair, it's an excellent question, and I think I always wince when I look at it because it does seem like a long time, but would you believe that puts us in the top quartile in Wales in terms of performance for DFG? I know it tells you something about some of these targets, doesn't it, and the way that they're set, but that does include the referral, the visit, the application process, the referral back to social care, the occupational therapist, links with an Iron Bevan Local Health Board, coming back through to social care. It's a really long, convoluted process, but it does include the work as well. And sometimes I think what we find, there's a delay, because very often we're dealing with an older, vulnerable person who midway through the process may get taken into hospital. You know, that frequently happens, and that can add a lot of time, but we do try and do it. We've made some significant improvements, but I absolutely take your point. You know, 230 days, if that puts us in the top cohort for Wales, then that probably tells you all you need to know, doesn't it?
Okay, thank you. Tony?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe my last question. On page 105 or page 7, there's a little paragraph. How much did we do? Net revenue spend of the local authority in 2012 is 139 million. 145 million is now this year, actual 143 million on quarter one on the basis of that. Total number of employees headcount, 4,000 in 12 is now 3,983, which is higher than 13-14. Are those accurate figures, Peter?
It is a very good question. First off, the figures that you're quoting are head count. Certainly a case that the full-time equivalent figures that I've seen for the authority is certainly one of a shrinking organisation. There's a likelihood, and I'll have to go back and check, but there is a likelihood that we have a greater number of part-time posts occurring in the organisation, which is obviously going to lead to increase in headcount. But certainly, I'll look to confirm that back, certainly in terms of the full-time equivalent figures.
And how many of those are teachers? There's a fair chunk of teachers, isn't there?
It's roughly in the order of about 1,500 of the 4,000.
Okay, and what about this net spend? Is the 143 million assessed for Q1 or during Q1?
What is the specific query?
Well, net revenue spend of the local authority in 2012 was 139 million. 2013 to 14 went up to 145 million. Actual estimated spend this year will be 143 million. It doesn't seem to be dropping as much as one expect if we had a contracting spending authority with budget cuts.
I'll need to go back to colleagues in finance on that one. It very much depends on how they actually calculate that figure. So I completely understand the query, given obviously given the financial context that we're in currently. So I'll look to make sure that I get a solid response back on that.
Thank you.
May I just ask a question of you there, Senior Officer, reference going back to Councillor Easton's point about the head count. Whether they're full-time or part-time, we still have a responsibility and they still have terms and conditions, that is correct. And they're still entitled to holiday pay, they're still entitled to their pension contributions. So whether they're full-time or part-time, the head count is the head count, is that correct? And I think we need to be clear on that, we need a proper actual head count, because we've always been under the impression, I'll give the term now, is we need to be a lean machine. And with the looks of that, we seem to have got very lean and we seem to be driving up again, whether it's part-time or full-time, but we are driving it up. Can we just make sure we have an actual account of that, because it doesn't seem consistent with what we're being told. Okay.
Just one point in response. I mean, I've been in post now for probably six to 8 months, and one key area of focus for me and actually the team is with regards to our data. We've made significant efforts in recent months to develop much better reporting mechanisms, and certainly in terms of the level of comfort and reassurance that I have when reporting, not just on information such as headcount, but I am comforted that certainly in coming months I will have a much better reporting suite, a much better data set on which to report, and I would like to think that we will start to see that coming through now in future reports.
Okay, that's reassuring. Thank you, Councillor Dovey.
Just one thought on the figures. You're absolutely right. Part-time people, etc. Is there an element of this that are people that are contracted, because they wouldn't fall into the previous two brackets? They're not employed, they would be contracted, so they'd be there doing the job, but they wouldn't be part of MonCC.
Do you mean like secondment and people like that,
Oh,
David, and consultants in a 6-month contract?
Consultant,
yes,
you could get people. You can get people
Yes.
that have certain specialities, even in teaching, and you contract them in. You don't want them long term, perhaps. I just wondered whether that is one of the areas.
So we'll elaborate the inquiry of is also, does this include secondments in and out, and does it include people who are contracted as consultees, etc., etc. Okay, so we'll make that a wider remit. All right, thanks, Dave.
Could I just quickly respond to that? I can confirm that these figures do not include such staff that are contracted in that manner. Certainly, if staff are seconded out to other organisations, those figures would be similarly adjusted. So I hope that provides that level of reassurance.
Would you like the data on that, David, as well, while we're just on it?
I think it would be an interesting item of data to know what if any, numbers are contracted into the counties and we're paying for this because they might not be appearing on the horizon, if you see what I mean. There'll be a cost, but not being shown in some of these.
Okay. Do we still have a legal responsibility if we second out? So the individual, let's say, as a secondment to another local authority, have we still a legal responsibility? It's still contracted to Monmouthshire County Council, and any contribution from the directorate towards them, let's say, maybe just a 75% secondment. So can we just have a look at that data then? It may be quite easy to obtain, it may be quite awkward to obtain, but can we have a quick look when we have a minute?
I was just going to make a suggestion, Chair, that we brought the People Strategy to you a couple of weeks ago, and one of the major sections in the People Strategy is about the workforce. That includes headcount, it includes attendance management, it includes casual workers, and you did ask, I think, as a committee to see that document again before it comes back through to Cabinet for final approval. So perhaps to bring all of this together as a catch-all, we could bring an update on the data that you need with a revised People Strategy to your next meeting as planned anyway, Chair.
Is that okay?
Yes, that document didn't ring this bell with me, but this document has. Okay. So I think it's...
Councillor White, please.
Yes, Chairman, that's the question I wanted to know about consultants and how many, and if they would come onto this number. I'm surprised that they're not, and that's a whole new ball game, as they say. Can I go back when I first became a councillor and we had directories for the employment personnel? That gave us an idea of different departments and people employed in that. I've still got my old one, but of course a lot of those people have gone. I just don't see why we can't have something like that again, even if it is online, just for us to know departments, who's employed there, who's in charge of those departments. We've had different things sent to us, but not the whole picture, and I would like to see the whole picture.
Okay, Councillor White, so what we're saying is you'd like a matrix build-up of each directorate, if it's possible. I'm sure Democratic Services Committee were asking for like a telephone directory, etc.
That's what we had, but of course now we've gone more online.
And I think a request has been made from Democratic Services Committee for like a telephone directory matrix.
I think it would have helped in this situation, reading this and compiling the two.
I'll make sure the chair of that select committee is well aware of that, your conversation.
Sorry, say again which committee?
I'll make sure Democratic Services chair is aware that strong communities are looking at pushing that document forward. Have any more questions? Councillor Smith?
I'd support Councillor White on that because I've been collecting together vague schematics for various departments, trying to determine where staff are actually sitting, actually trying to identify staff by name. Thank you, Sue, for raising it again. We might know what we're talking about sometime.
Okay. Councillor Ruth Edwards?
Thank you, Chair. It's more or less carrying on the same theme. Years ago, we all were issued with a telephone directory. I don't think that is an expense that we certainly would want to take on board now, but I do think perhaps something like that could be made available through the group leaders or whatever, so that anybody wanted to peruse one, that it was available. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Dovey?
I hope this will be by department rather than just people having a telephone number, because with the churn that we've got going on in staff, and they do move, we need to know who we should be talking about to in the department as much as knowing the person. If you know, is that clear? Yeah,
that's very clear.
Yeah, that was the point I made. And the other thing is, we don't necessarily need to have a printed directory up because of the reasons, the churn thing, but it would be great if we had a directory online that you could tap into, almost like we've got the calendar on the side, you know, and hit licensing, and up would come the people in licensing and their telephone numbers. I think that would be a great asset, because you spend a lot of time chasing around trying to find the right person to speak to in the right department.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dove. Have any more questions on this report? Okay, we'll go back to the recommendations then within the report. I won't read through them. 2.1, 2.2 and 2.3. Everybody happy with them recommendations? Can I have a show of hands, please? Thank you, members. Thank you, members, for your time this morning. Been a real good call-in, and we discussed the work programme, Councillor Easton, in our last meeting. Sorry, this is a special meeting with an amended item. May I close the meeting? Thank you.